My name is Manisha Shah. I am the Program Director for Hudson SPEAKS. Hudson SPEAKS is the designated 24/7 Rape Crisis Center for entire Hudson County. We operate via 24/7 crisis helpline where survivors, secondary victims can reach us through that phone call. A lot of survivors just have general questions. We also get calls from survivors who just have been assaulted very recently. So we have like multilingual advocates who operate the helpline for us. So we have advocates who speak Spanish, Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Bengali, and a lot of other languages. So we pretty much are operational 24/7.
Hudson Speaks Against Sexual Violence Program Director Manisha Shah, following a resolution by the Jersey City Council recognizing the organization's work and proclaiming April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, spoke with Real Jersey City about the free community services and programs her organization provides, no matter how long it has been since a person was victimized.
The 24/7 crisis helpline, which we have, it's a helpline, it's just not a hotline. So one doesn't need to be in an active, ongoing crisis for us to kind of seek our services. We do a lot of outreach and education in colleges, universities, out in the community. We have a coalition where we extensively talk about our services. We very clearly specify that our services are just not for primary victims, but are for secondary victims, and also your victimization just doesn't have to be recent. We do get calls from a lot of incest survivors, right? Individuals who call us now are 40 years old and they say, I am kind of dealing still with that trauma, and I was traumatized when I was 8 years old. So our supportive services, which is counseling, support groups, are open to anybody and everybody who has experienced this trauma in the recent past or many, many years back. It doesn't matter.
Shah also spoke about Hudson Speaks' working relationship with law enforcement when sexual assaults are reported.
Hudson Speaks, being the designated rape crisis center, we are a part of the SART team, which is Sexual Assault Response Team. So any individual once comes forward and says he or she has been victimized, either they might call 911 or walk into a PD. The PD in that case will activate the Special Victims Unit, which is down by Duncan Avenue. And Special Victims Unit then activates us, meaning they relay the information to us saying there is a survivor, so-and-so. They might say 15 years old, 20 years old, Spanish speaking, on the way to the hospital, Christ Hospital or Hoboken Hospital, right? And we have 45 minutes as a member of SART team to respond to whichever hospital the survivor is being taken to. So again, we have a pretty much 24/7 operational system where we get activated right away. And just like the Special Victims Unit, the same nurse who is sexual assault nurse examiner, the confidential sexual violence advocates also reach within 45 minutes to the designated site.
Following up on law enforcement and the reporting of sexual violence, Shah talked about reasons why victims may be reluctant to notify the police.
Yeah, that is something, yes, they're not very sure, especially with young survivors. They don't know how their family is going to react because of the police involvement. A lot of other older survivors feel they don't want to talk to the police because they might be re-victimized. They might be asked questions which necessarily they're not sure of. And that's something which we see a lot in the case of alcohol. If alcohol is voluntary consumption also, if it's involved and an assault happens, survivors mostly don't remember a big part of the story. So they always fear that when law enforcement asks them, like, do you remember what time it was? Do you remember what it was? They will not have a lot of that information. And with the fear of not being believed, they kind of don't want law enforcement involvement, and which a sexual assault survivor does have. They have a right to accept all the three components of SART services, or they can say, I don't want to talk to the police, but yes, I want medical services in Christ or Hoboken, and I need an advocate. They have that right. So, it's again, this SART process is survivor driven. If they don't want to talk to a police, yes, it's respected and law enforcement is not involved. Then they will just come to the hospital, seek services in ER, have forensic collection done, and connect for later on counseling services or long-term services with us. And that's absolutely acceptable.
In light of recent media exposure and public policy changes regarding the issue of sexual violence on campus, I asked Shah if Jersey City's two major universities, New Jersey City University and St. Peter's University, were taking action on the issue.
So I think it's a good thing that this focus, because of the forced legislation which has come from White House, we are just asking a different set of questions. The colleges have been asked to really look at this as issue as very seriously, rather than saying, it's not an issue in my campus, it might be out in the community, or it's like the other campus kind of a thing, right? It's all, as a society, if we really need to tackle this issue, we really have to be on the same page with regards to this, right? And I think it's great that we are talking about, we are relooking at consent. What does consent mean? Redefining consent. Again, yesterday I was in St. Peter's at a conference where we extensively not only spoke about prevention, we also spoke about role of alcohol, for example, right? What are the repercussions if a student is actually indicted for a sexual assault? What kind of impact is it going to have in his or her future, in terms of getting jobs, in terms of like any other day-to-day activities in life, right? So it has been an ongoing issue. I think the real thing is that, yes, all the colleges have accepted it, that yes, it used to happen. We really couldn't quantify it. And the real focus is prevention.
Shah also answered whether policy changes could leave open the possibility of individuals, most likely men, being unfairly accused of sex crimes, and whether the recent retraction of a Rolling Stone article detailing a campus rape at the University of Virginia hurts victims from stepping forward.
Yeah, with extensive scrutiny, but again, false reporting of sexual assault is a very, very low number, right? But again, we are moving towards like legislation which says affirmative consent, right? Further, just defining consent, like should it be actually a legal contract? There are apps now, again, consent taken along the way, every step of the way. It has to be verbal. We're moving away from a model of just not no means no, but a model of yes means a yes kinds, right? So again, I think within consent, I think when we really break it down and have the students really well educated or what consent, I don't think there is any gray area which the law or we universities as educators should be leaving out. And again, as I say, sexual assault, misreporting or false reporting is a very, very low number.
Following up on the gray area of the law, I asked Shah whether an individual regretting a consensual sexual experience, participating in a painful fetish as an example, is a victim.
Right? So the experience part is completely different. But again, it has to be affirmative, it has to be mutual, and it has to be verbalized. As long as the person verbally agrees to it, is not intoxicated, is mentally, physically in a shape to kind of consent, it lies within a positive consent, right? So again, I think scenarios can play out, but again, we have to look at the affirmative consent, which is like a yes means a yes model, and see, does it fall within that parameters, right? You consented, but just before the act, was it verbal? Was it coerced? So there's so many different aspects, right? And again, law is trying to really look at it as a contract and putting in space all these scenarios that might play out.
Finally, Shah explained how Hudson Speaks markets its services to the community in Jersey City and Hudson County.
And, we at Hudson Speaks, yes, we are a crisis center. We deal with after individuals who have already been victimized, right? A big part of our mission is to stop the violence. In doing that, we are every day, almost every day, in some part of Hudson County community where we are either flyering, we are giving our information, we are making presentations. So we have a good connection with the community, and that's how we piggyback on existing structures in the community. We are part of every coalition that exists in Hudson County. We are, in good terms with DCPP. So again, we are community based, and we just do very simple things like flyering. We are active on social media. Any given opportunity where we see the community is going to congregate, we are pretty much there with our information saying, this is who we are, this is our crisis 24/7 number, and our services are free and confidential.
I'm Michael Shurin with Real Jersey City, the talk of the town.